There is a podcast about an island in the North Atlantic where people have been looking for an incredible treasure for more than 200 years.
Hello and welcome back to Could It Be?
An Oak Island Podcast.
We are your hosts, Deidre and Dustin White.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, it's good. We're running behind, but that's all right.
It's totally fine. We have awesome guests lined up today for our listeners, and we're really excited to bring to you all. We have Corjan and we have Chris Morford. They are the gentlemen that were on the Curse of Oak Island, the Theorists that presented a special theory about Nicholas Poussin, right?
Yes, and we've been, ever since that episode, dying to talk to them, dive a little deeper. We know we only get to see a couple minutes of what's probably hours in the war room.
Yes.
So our own little war room here.
Yeah, right. So welcome you guys, and welcome to Could It Be?
Okay, make room, not war.
Thank you, Deidre, Dustin. Thanks for having us here. Appreciate it.
Problem. No,
thank you so much.
It's our pleasure. We're really happy that you agreed to chat with us, and
right,
that we could learn more about your guys' theory. It was such a big focal point of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Usually they don't they have a theory come on, or theorists come on to the show. They might do a little bit of research or a little bit of following up, but then we usually see it go away. Your guys' theory is pretty special because they
kept coming up.
Yeah, you guys were on, or Corjan was on 2 episodes of the show, and then so episode 8 and 9, I believe, of season 7, and Chris was on episode 9, and then they kept bringing you guys up throughout the season, like your guys' theory, and that's not typical with the show. So congratulations on that. You must have struck a real chord.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're pretty happy about that.
I mean, I'm sure after all the research you put in, you really hope that the nail on the head or the swamp or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, well, we'll get to the theory in a moment, but I just want to say about, I don't know, I think you guys really struck a chord with Marty in particular because he's never excited about anything that has to do with the swamp, and you guys got him excited about the swamp, I think. So congratulations on that.
That is true.
All right, so you guys, your episode aired back in January. It must have seemed like a lifetime ago at this point.
Definitely, yeah.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, there was a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world since now and then, and it feels like many lifetimes, but yeah, so in that episode, they were working in the bump out in Smith's Cove, so that tells us how long ago it was, because that really, like, as viewers, that seems like forever ago because they've removed the bump out, or they've removed the whole cofferdam in Smith's Cove. But then they met with you guys in the war room, and, before we go into that, did you guys get a tour of the island or anything?
Corjan, or should I jump in?
Just either way, it's totally fine.
Yes, we did. Doug Crowell took us around, and he was the ultimate tour guide for us, I think. The guy is so knowledgeable about everything on the island. And he took us firsthand to all the sites and gave us all the history and all the backstories. And it was a wonderful experience. What a great guy. And nice of him to lend all that time and take us all around. We're very excited about that. It's one thing to see it on TV, and then to actually be standing at those places, it's quite exciting.
It was great, and he's a great driver. They don't exactly have a motorway, so my kidneys were about here and there, but it was very, very special.
That's cool. So you get to go and visit each of the stones of Nolan's Cross, I'd probably assume.
Yeah, it was the Stones of Nolan's Cross. We went to Smith's Cove, did a very short tour of the Money Pit, but they were filming there at the time, so we had to stay out of the picture. That's something you never see on telly, but there's sort of really a craft of everybody staying out of the way of the camera, which is quite difficult with so many people doing stuff on the island and so many cameras around. But they're quite efficient there.
Yeah,
you don't really think about that.
No, for such a small island, there's so much activity going on everywhere you look.
Yeah. No stone unturned.
No. And those stones were much bigger than I imagined. So.
Yeah,
They're actually huge. Huh?
they look pretty big, but yeah, you don't probably get a real good perspective unless you're standing right next to it. So that's pretty cool.
But they are actually huge. They are actually huge.
Elephant size, I think.
Yeah.
Now that's some perspective. Elephant.
Mhm.
Now I can just picture like an elephant sitting in each of the points.
Yeah,
so
Like
good.
a baby elephant island, maybe.
Baby elephant island. Well, I see what you did there. That was good.
That's exactly what it is.
Hey,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so when did you guys first hear about Oak Island and this epic treasure hunt?
Oh, that's a long time ago. I was more of a Rennes Chateau guy. You know, there's a mystery of Rennes Chateau, which is the mystery behind Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code.
Mm-hmm.
I was interested in that for a very long time, and I think from 12, 15 years ago, I came across Oak Island on some forum and never really paid any attention to it because I thought it was unlikely. You know, Templars in America, treasure. You know, another treasure story, cool, but. And then the series came on, which I watched, which was cool, but still didn't pay too much attention, you know, until they approached me about Poussin.
Also, they approached you guys. I mean, you guys didn't send them a email saying, "Hey, we have this cool theory that could be something you guys could use."
No, I didn't.
Oh, wow.
No, I got a mail. Well, Chris has his own story, but I got a mail before the summer last year from someone from Prometheus. If I knew something about Poussin, because he had popped up in a number of theories, and they wanted to check a number of things. So at the time, I had no idea this was the Curse of Oak Island. So I talked to I think a production assistant and the director to give my views, and they asked me, you know, would it be possible you develop a theory or see if there could be any connection between Poussin's works and the island. And then they asked me to present that. And then when the camera opened, I was in the Oak Island war room with half the crew there, which was apparently an audition. And a couple of days later, I was on the island.
Wow.
That's how it was. Pretty crazy.
Wow.
Actually, Corey and I did not know each other before we met on the island.
No.
Wait,
Oh.
what?
So,
Okay.
Okay.
This
So-
feels really backwards from what I anticipated.
That's really neat, though. Brought you
Well,
guys.
give him the story, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
well, how I found out about Oak Island was probably in the In Search of TV show with Leonard Nimoy.
Mhm.
Gosh, that was back in the late 70s, but I probably saw a rerun. I don't think I'm that old, but yeah, I guess I am. But kind of funny. It started with Spock and ended up with Captain Kirk. You know, so, Luke Long, yes, and so yeah, Corjan got an invite, which was nice. I took the I guess more traditional route. Again, I was not too deeply involved in the Curse of Oak Island, but I did happen to meet Chris Dona in an online forum, and he was on season 6, episode 21. He's an astronomer who's got some great theories, and he mentioned it to me and said, "Are you watching the show? Are you interested in it?" So we were posting similar things online, and we liked each other's ideas. So I really got into it at that point and put my own theory together. And Mr. Dona was a great sounding board. And I said, I think maybe I've got something here.
Mhm.
And he said, well, send it in, you know. And then I just went on the website and sent the theory in, thinking that would be the end of it.
Mhm.
And a week later, I got an email from Doug, and he said, could you send me the full theory? I said, sure. And after that, a production assistant got in touch with me and said, would you fly on up? And I guess my theory does involve Poussin as well, and it overlaps with some of Corjan's research.
Mm-hmm.
So they had the idea of bringing us together and saying, you guys seem to overlap on these points and agree on some things. Why don't you put your heads together while you're up here and see what you can come up with? We'll show you around, and we'll have a little round table and see if you can work together. So that's exactly what we did, and I'm very happy for it. I made a great friend out of it, and a great research partner here.
Yeah, it was amazing. So, and it's funny, the stuff that you see in episode 9 is actually what it's a work that we did together on the island. And, we've been working together, something like 24/7 ever since. And we're still working with Chris Dona, who's a fantastic guy, fantastic researcher. And we found that we're completely complementary in what we do and what we know. So yeah, it's been a fantastic experience.
And that's fun. That's fun to hear. Like from a viewer's perspective, I thought that you guys were just like a tag team for a long time.
Yeah, seriously.
So that's pretty cool.
It did come across that way, didn't it?
Yeah, but now you guys brought your, with your powers combined, right?
Yes.
You guys really pinpoint a lot of this stuff. So
Uh,
yeah, really neat, really neat.
It's definitely backwards from what I expected to hear. I mean, I was like, what do you mean you didn't just like take this linear path and end up there? And like you said, it's got to be a big surprise to you when someone gets back to you a week later, or, oh, hey, you figure you're not actually going to hear from anybody.
Yeah, would you like to come to Nova Scotia next week?
Yes, it was just like that.
Yeah.
First they said, come at the end of the month, and then they said, actually, can you do it next week? Yeah, I guess.
That's fun.
Note to self, I'm going to gather a theory. So that's the quickest way to get me to know.
Yeah.
It actually requires a lot of work.
I know.
You can't do it overnight, okay?
I'm joining their team.
Okay.
I'm doing whatever it takes. I'm all about the art of negotiation here. So
speaking of art. Okay,
yes. Nice segue there.
Yeah, there you go. So we have Nicholas Poussin. He's like the centerpiece for your guys' theory, at least what was broadcast on the show.
Yes.
So who is he? And and
why Poussin?
Why what even brought you to begin researching his art and his what brought it all together?
Well, the easy answer is because they asked me to. Nicolas Poussin is the classical painter, 17th century. He was a French guy, even though he worked from Rome in Italy most of his life, especially later in his life. He's got a fantastic style that you can see develop throughout his life, and the older he got and the more mature and experienced, the better his symbology and his geometry became, and the more powerful the saying power of his paintings. He was known to use geometry in his paintings. He figures somewhere in the mystery around Le Chateau, so I knew that a pentagram is behind the Shepherds of Arcadia. That's not something that Chris or myself found, but it's something discovered by Professor Cornford of the Royal College of Art in London, I think in the end of the 80s or beginning of the 90s. And then when I started to research, I noticed that Nova Scotia was called Arcadia in 1525 by Giovanni di Verrazzano. And then I started to make the link.
Yeah, it's just mind-blowing. Wow.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so it's funny when Deidre, because you guys touched on the show, and now I'm hearing you talk about him using geometry in the paintings. Like, just looking at the paintings, I don't see it because I'm untrained, whatever. I'm really not I like art, but I'm not an art person. Deidre is an art person. She's telling me all this stuff, and I'm like, okay. I mean, I guess I just don't see it because I'm not trained in that. Or, and
you want to do a little exercise, Dustin.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have Shepherds of Arcadia here.
Okay, I'm looking at it on my other screen now.
Here we go. Yep. How many arms do you count?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 arms.
Keep going.
Is there
what
more?
about the shadow?
1. Oh, Oh, the shadow.
You
Yeah.
should know better.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, yeah. I didn't see the one on the shoulder with the from the.
It's
wall.
7.
And
Okay, 7. Sure.
So what thing, what artifact, what world famous religious Jewish artifact do you know that has 7 arms?
I don't know what. The Jewish artifact, the menorah.
The menorah.
Exactly right.
Okay.
There you go.
So this is kind of like some sort of like a representation of the menorah, like symbolically, maybe.
It might be. I mean, you can say a lot of things about this painting, but I guess the pentagram in combination with the Arcadia, with the menorah, it certainly makes you think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So, Chris, did you have anything you wanted to say about Poussin?
Yeah, the way I integrated Poussin into my research, I had heard of him also with the Rennes-le-Château mystery. Of course, I had read Holy Blood, Holy Grail books like that. I found it very interesting, very intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably stared at that painting on and off over the years, trying to figure out exactly what he was trying to get across there.
Mhm.
A lot of my theory was based on the work of Petter Amundsen. He's been on the show. He's the researcher that overlaid the Tree of Life onto Nolan's Cross, and a lot of Sir Francis Bacon and Shakespeare. So one of the places he's found a lot of clues was in a plaque that's hanging in the Holy Trinity Church in Stratford-upon-Avon. There's a dedicatory plaque there to Shakespeare, and it's just full of ciphers and clues that he has found. And one of the things that I found in there was an anagram, which turned out to read "et in Arcos ego," very close to "et in Arcadia ego." And Arcos, I believe, was a reference not only to Arctos, which is Ursa Minor, but also Arcas, who was a king of Arcadia at one point. So that made me realize that there could be a link here between that painting, because that is the slogan, which is in the middle, painted on the tomb. That's in Arcadia ego. So I thought there was a clear reference going back to that painting, and I took another look at it and tried and did my best to tie it all in. So that was how I got to Poussin.
Yeah, really cool. Yeah, so we're actually looking at some of the stuff that you sent to us prior to this live stream, and like we have, we're going to bring it up on the screen what you're kind of talking about, how the the anagram here that you were mentioning. So can you go ahead and bring that up?
Yeah, let's see here.
So that the viewers can have a visual. All right, here we go. So this is what you were talking about?
Yes, that's
okay, cool.
Genio Socratem. There's quite a bit in the text before that, but those letters you can rearrange to read "et in Arcos ego."
Let's see here. Or should I start here?
That'll be fine. Sure. So this is the plaque that has been hanging on near Shakespeare's grave since sometime after 1616. Petter Amundsen, brilliant researcher, he found the Bacon pentagon that you see there.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right. And we've also discovered near the top and bottom there, LIV and LIV, circled in yellow. Those are Roman numerals for 54. Yeah. Twice that equals 108, which is the angle of the pentagram.
Oh, yes.
If you look on the bottom right, you'll see a bunch of numbers about Shakespeare's death date. If you add those up, 16, 16, 53, 23, you also get 108. And it should be noted that those numbers are not correct. His age at death was not 53. No, it was intentionally a typo, if you want to call it that, to get to that number.
It's kind of like when we saw on that Shakespeare special of the show, it had like some pages were missing out of his complete works, right? And so, yeah, that's not something, like if, I don't know, like that would be extremely curious to anybody like reading through the book and seeing it suddenly jump from one number to another. So I can understand the appeal of digging deeper into this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, if you look at the top right there, the very first or the last word on the top right of the plaque, which is Marinam. Petter also discovered, or one of his friends did, I forget which, but if you read that backwards, it is Minorum.
Okay. It is. That's
another reference to the menorah.
Wow.
I discovered the Bacon triangle. You might have another visual there.
There we go.
There it is. Thank you. Another instance of Sir Francis Bacon signing his name into this plaque. Now, if you connect the C to the A and then the O to the B, I think there's another visual. You get a cross,
which is
which I immediately sent to my friend Chris Dona and said, "You have a good picture of the island with Nolan's cross on it, and could you overlay this and check it out, because that angle looks pretty familiar." And he did that.
Wow.
And it was spot on. He didn't alter it. He did not alter it in any way. That's what we got. So I was fairly convinced that this plaque was starting to reference Nolan's cross and the island. And if you should be another one with the text at the top.
There we go. Is this the one?
I think so.
Or is there? We also have this one. This is the one with the anagram in it, right?
One more, showing still showing the triangle. I think pointing upwards.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't want to take away from other stuff here, but
no, I'm.
No, it's all good.
I gotta know the thing. Okay, so that's the pentagram.
Okay.
Then I had that one, which we already saw. We
That's all I'm seeing.
Bacon.
Well, that's pretty interesting seeing that. Like,
there you go. You could just stop there. Sorry. Yeah. Can you go back one?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, if you're looking at that though, and you overlay it on a map of Oak Island where north is up, I mean, it looks exactly the same as the way that Nolan's crossing on the island. So that's pretty impressive.
So if you look at the top of the triangle here, it does point to the letter N.
Yeah.
If that's a compass, then that is north. If you continue reading backwards, the same way Minorum is spelled backwards, from that N, you get N-O-R, which is an acceptable abbreviation of north. Yeah. Just after that, you have A-M-E.
This
North America.
Because we're looking at, if we're going backwards, we have
there you go.
Wow.
So yeah, you got north and AME for America. You've got the tram at Arcos, which is the tram is the handle of Ursa Major, the handle of the Big Dipper, basically. Yeah. So these are now celestial clues, which are pointing to the island as well. I won't go into that. It's really really involved. But really cool. And one final thing about the first word there, Marinam. If you were to split it into two words, Menno and Ram, and I think there's another slide, and you use the simple cipher that Francis Bacon used, you will actually get the latitude of Oak Island.
Oh, that's right. I remember seeing this. Sorry, guys, I'm going to make you seasick here.
It's okay.
I'm wearing my life vest. No worries.
Yay! Safety first. Okay, that is
That's the
this.
cipher. Yeah. So A
then-
is 1, B is 2, C is 3.
Yeah.
But you have to keep in mind this is Old English, and they only had 24 letters in their alphabet.
There you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would end up 4430, which is
And
the
so-
latitude of Oak Island.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
And you have the north, so it's 4430 north.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that was in one of our trivia questions from a couple of weeks ago. We do a Oak Island trivia on Friday nights, and we did the latitude and longitude, and that's impressive stuff.
Yeah, and
I like that.
initially when I was kind of looking through these things, I assumed it was going to be related to gematria and the numbers that way versus the simple, like you said, the Bacon substitution cipher. Just that's something we've seen going way back, but this very fascinating. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Thank
really
you.
cool. Yeah, we had studied some gematria for a treasure hunt that we did, and it actually focused a lot on ancient Egyptian
Usage.
research.
And
they used a lot of like sacred geometry, like a lot of symbolism with geometry and angles and stuff. So like, Francis Bacon, if he's using that as well, or if Poussin is using it, I mean, they have generations of precedence to get to that point of where, like it's been used for thousands of years, basically, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and we
Absolutely.
know that Poussin was using this simple cipher too. If I may, Chris,
Please.
et in Arcadia ego. If you apply the simple substitution cipher with 24 letters, Arcadia is 36. The full sentence is 108, and the difference is 72. 36, 72, and 108 are the three corners in a pentagram.
Okay.
So
I think we have a
that's.
slide of that as well.
Oh, do you? Okay,
Do we? Oh,
pull that up.
Oh yeah, here we go. That's the
Mm.
yeah, because I remember seeing. I like geometry a lot, so I was actually pretty stoked on this one.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
pretty
there you go.
impressive stuff.
Like, yeah.
So,
that
but if you see that, the pentagram behind the painting is not coincidence. So he deliberately constructed this painting this way. If you look at X-rays of the picture, you can see that he painted the staffs before he did the rest of the painting. And et in Arcadia ego is a sentence that people have been wondering about for centuries because it's sort of weird Latin. It says, even in Arcadia I am, which is said to maybe refer to death even being there in the ideal land of Arcadia. But it might have been a way just to combine Arcadia to a pentagram. And then if you know the connection with the cipher, the plaque, Arcadia, and the other painting that Poussin created together with the first version of the Shepherds of Arcadia, that perhaps you saw us explain in episode 8, I think, where the Gold River came up. Then you have a latitude, you have a pentagram, you have a sentence with Arcadia, you have a Gold River, and then all of a sudden, Rick asked me, could you make a plausible theory using elements from Poussin? And I remember my first answer was no, not in a million years. And then when I started to research and go in it, it became, more and more and more plausible, right?
Yeah.
For example, on the painting, the lady here, we think is Venus. Okay. Venus is one of only 2 planets who travels to the west instead of to the east. Venus travels in a pentagram pattern around the Earth Chris is the rain man here. He always knows the number. I never know the numbers. But in I think 384 days, something like that.
Something like that. But it will align with the Earth. Venus and Earth will be aligned with the Sun in a straight line 5 times at those exact 5 points of the pentagram.
And exactly. And if you then know that Oak Island is on that latitude, it's on the shore of a place that's called Western Shore in the west, in the mouth of the Gold River. If you have the painting and you know how to read it, you could come within 2-3 miles from the island, which I think is pretty impressive. It wouldn't bring you to, if there was a treasure, it wouldn't bring you to the treasure because you would need a detailed map, which I think they didn't have in the 17th century. But if you knew all the information, it could get you close.
Yes.
So you're getting close, and then you happen upon an island that has a giant stone cross embedded into it, right? So that's
well, that was my reasoning. There's a cross there that has 5 stones, but you only need 4 to make a cross. So what is the 5th stone doing there? So that's when I thought maybe the 5th stone is intended to position your pentagram.
Yeah.
So I mapped it, and the rest you can see on television. And then in the end, when we combined forces, we looked at a self-portrait of Poussin from 1650. We sent you a little video in which we documented our thought process to get to that point that's been on television so much. Yeah, there you go. So this is Shepherds of Arcadia, second version. And in a minute, you will see the pentagram appear, which is actually larger than the painting itself.
Okay.
This would be a good time. Yeah, there you go. And then we looked for the center of this pentagram, and it centers exactly on Venus's third eye, her Bindu point. That's the eye that sees stuff that's beyond ordinary perception. And then we looked at a self-portrait of Poussin from 1650. And hey, a pentagram connects his eyes to a pyramid-shaped onyx ring and the third eye in the headdress of this woman that we think is Venus from the Shepherds of Arcadia.
Wow. Very cool.
So why do you believe this to be Venus? Like, what was you see her and what says she's Venus?
That was a later insight. I think in the war room we actually said she was Athena, right, Chris?
We may have, yes, but with the pentagonal geometry going on, we know that's a strong indicator of Venus.
Okay.
That is one of her signs throughout history. So
yeah, I'm looking at it when the show's going on. I'm like, what is that Mary or something? It's like,
right.
Yeah. Well, the point, you can never know. I mean, Poussin didn't put titles on them. He didn't tag them. But given the panagram, we thought Venus was the most likely candidate.
Yeah, well, I like that. That sounds really good. Plus, with the connections you made as far as, I really like the Venus, Earth, the sun kind of lining up in 5 different ways, that's pretty compelling stuff.
It's amazing, huh?
Yeah, it is. Here, you got, can you pull that image up?
I pull this one.
Yeah, pull it up. Because we were just talking about that stuff. So here we have an image that you guys sent in that has both versions of Venus. We have Poussin and then his ring. What's the significance of the ring? Is that just something to orient it with so that you can get the lines in the right places?
We think it's a Masonic reference, I think.
Yeah, it is a pyramid ring. He's obviously displaying it prominently.
Oh yeah,
it's there for a purpose. And, it's to mark one of the angles of the pentagram, we believe.
Yeah. So
and that headdress is just so odd.
It
that
is
eyeball
sitting there. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's not. It can't be like something you think. Well, maybe it's just a weird fold in the fabric, but no, that's like legit an eyeball.
No, that's an eye. Yeah. And you can also see that Venus is embraced. You need to embrace Venus.
Okay, yeah, see that.
And in the painting, she's resting one hand on one of the shepherds,
yes.
And he's dressed in red. We think there may be some planetary aspects to this as well. We know that Mars is the red planet, and Venus and Mars do have some romantic history in the Greek mythology.
Very cool. All right.
Wow.
So beyond the show and beyond what we're seeing here, I haven't myself done any background on this. So what is this? Who is this, like a tomb for a specific shepherd or is it unnamed, or what do we know about this tomb?
Yeah, we don't know. That's the big mystery. Who is in the tomb?
Yeah,
we don't know.
You mentioned the shadow before, which a lot of art historians say that is a sickle or a scythe, representing the sickle of death.
Yeah.
And so that would go along with the motto on the tomb. Even in Arcadia, death is present. Even in paradise, you still have death. That's one interpretation.
Yeah, you say sickle, and I'm looking at it, and now I can't unsee it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once you notice.
Right. There's been a lot of talk about that, a lot written about that, because Buisson is a master, and according to a lot of art critics, it's a terrible shadow. It's not well done at all. It doesn't match the angle of the hand. It doesn't match the shape of the hand. So it's there for another purpose.
Yeah, if he's a master and he's using that kind of shape on something, there's a purpose behind it. So yeah, I can see that.
Everything was on purpose here. Yeah.
Yeah. So we think about all this art and stuff that was painted all these centuries ago. We don't even. It was a completely different world. Like, you can't overstate that enough. Like nowadays, people that are young watching the Oak Island and stuff, they're into their phones and their iPads and stuff. These guys didn't have anything even close to that kind of anything to keep them entertained. So everything that they did when they're working like this must have great purpose.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. You have to imagine, people were just as clever as we were. They just had different tools, and they lived in a different time.
Yeah.
But they had all the time in the world.
Yeah.
And they just use their brains.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah. Deidre was into, she studied some art history. And so she's always been into this kind of stuff, and it's brand new to me.
Yeah.
I appreciate you guys. I'm literally, I don't know anything about art. So
I kind of explained to him about what you had mentioned with X-rays. We've seen that this is very much a traditional way and for masters to be composing their pictures and their paintings and laying them out with these angles that are already drawn in, right? As an apprentice, you would have learned these skills and would have seen that in the back of these paintings. So it's not out of it's not a stretch of the imagination here to have proof that whether a pentagram or whatever triangles are going to be laid within them. And that's one of the things, right? Da Vinci didn't do that. We don't see that in a lot of his stuff, but we see it in other works of art.
You do.
So, which is why he's been so intriguing. We've seen writing about him.
And also the anagrams, like Chris just explained of the Shakespeare plaque in Holy Trinity Church. The sentence "et in Arcadia ego," which we think represents a pentagram because of the substitution cipher, could also be an anagram. It could be "Itego arcana Dei," be gone, I conceal the secrets of God. Or it could be "Gite neo Arcadia," go on an excursion to New Arcadia. And people use these sort of secrets to communicate with each other in a time that they didn't have encryption or secure landlines or anything like that. Bacon did it, Poussin did it, many artists did it. So it's I think it's quite plausible that there are messages in there.
So so Deidre and I, we do some treasure hunting, and we just what I would like to impress upon people is that because people just watching it, they're like, I could rearrange those words into anything I want, but I can't do that. Yeah, it's not like that. And then back in the day, so teacher, what I was saying earlier, we did this treasure hunt that was like based around a lot of this Egyptian stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, they had to have a way to hide stuff and in plain sight, because like you said, there's no encryption, nothing like that. So there has to be a way to figure out, on the person that's supposed to find its end, what it means.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just like in my brain, I'm just thinking to myself, that's something that needs to be impressed upon things like this, because with the research that we've done with these armchair treasure hunts,
Mm-hmm.
is what we look at, it's legit. Like, it's something that completely makes sense to me, but on TV, it's hard to bring that across. You know?
It's true, especially if they, if you do a 3-hour war room and they cut it back to 5 minutes.
I know, right?
Then David McBride calls you a crackpot. But I guess that's the risk of the trade. But everybody who's played Uncharted on the PlayStation knows how exciting this can be, and that these messages can be very real.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I've never played it, but I understand it, because that's kind of like a sort of.
I can recommend it, dude.
It's an archaeology game, right? Or like not. I mean, it's like an action adventure game, but a lot of archaeology and whatnot. Yeah, it's kind of like Indiana Jones ish, right?
Yeah, a bit like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
regarding the anagrams, like you said, there is a danger in that. But so unless it's something that's relatable to what's going on there, unless there's other evidence to back up the anagram that you found, then there is a danger of being accused
so you
of
sort of would need qualifiers, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly, which I think we've done.
Oh yeah. Well, if you're, like I said, like if you're looking at something that's trying to get a message across that is supposed to be hidden, anagram is a good way to do it. It is. So
especially if you've got a confirmer, right? You have whatever
exactly.
And we know that secret messages, I mean, Mary Queen of Scots is known for like delivering these messages using different codes and ciphers. And traditionally, I mean, biblically, the most common book printed was going to be a Bible, right? And most everybody's going to have the same edition. So what are you going to be carrying around with you? Most likely, you're going to have easy access to a Bible. So you saw a lot of codes that were, what do I want to say? Book codes that
it's in the Bible,
you could, if you know what verses or such you're working off of, create a hidden message, but the person on the receiving end needs to have that. So I really agree. Impressing upon. I'm making up words. People that this really, it's not any stretch of the imagination, but because this was done back then. I mean, we want encrypted stuff now. We wanted to hide our secrets then too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Makes complete sense. All right. So
absolutely.
The image that we have on the screen now is the first of the Shepherds of Arcadia. Is that right?
This is the second version.
Oh, the
second.
Two. Shepherds 2.
Okay. Can you pull up the other one, please? All right. So we have on the left the Shepherds of Arcadia, and then on the right is the what is this one called with Midas? Is that right?
This is Midas washing at the source of the river Pactolus. This is about the old. Is that a myth? I think is the word of King Midas, who made a deal with the god Dionysus. I never know the words of these gods in English. But everything he touched would turn to gold, which was fantastic until he tried to have breakfast and kiss his daughter. So he tried to get rid of the curse, and the god told him, "Go wash yourself in the river Pactolus." From that moment on, the river turned into a gold river, and he got rid of his curse.
Gotcha.
And these paintings were painted together as pendants. So these were intended to hang together on someone's wall. They are tied together by the river god. So on the left, you see the old fellow. In the bottom right corner, the same guy is on the right painting. The be it that he's a little bit younger. He's feeding the underground stream, and in the background, these shepherds are looking at this tomb and pointing at the same inscription, "Et in Arcadia ego."
That's really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, you know, when I first saw this, like when they showed this on the show, the one with Midas, I thought Midas was the guy on the rock. Like I was like, I don't get it, but
Yeah, okay,
now
no.
it makes more sense suddenly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Midas is the guy who forgot his underwear.
Yeah, yeah, that we need to cover up a bit. But.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gee.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
All right, so this would be Dionysus in both of these images, probably.
No, I don't. I think he's the river god.
No, these are, yeah. In the Greek mythology, almost all of the rivers were personified by a god.
Mm-hmm.
So these are two river gods.
Gotcha.
They may be the same.
Yeah, I just know that he's like probably Deidre's favorite because he's like also the god of wine, right?
Yeah. Wine.
Dionysus. Oh yeah.
Very useful god.
Right.
My favorite.
Also Bacchus.
I got priorities. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
So one
Very
question
good.
I do have about this Gold River. So this was painted what in the 1620s?
1618, 1617, something like that.
Yeah, so like I don't know, the Gold River in Nova Scotia near Oak Island wasn't probably discovered yet, or was it? Or like
It was there. It was a gold-bearing river.
Yeah.
But yeah, some people in Nova Scotia told me it actually used to be called the Gould River, Gould.
Okay.
Presumably named after a family that lived at the mouth of the river.
That's
Other people have told me, yeah, it's interesting, but you don't know. We know there was gold in the river. We know people prospected there very, very early.
Yeah.
The natives or the local people, the Mi'kmaq, must have known there was gold in there. Not sure they knew what to do with it.
Yeah. So one of your guys is like, what you think could be on the island as far as treasure would be the Ark of the Covenant, right? That's what was presented in the show, and that's what we hope is there too. At least me.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So if that's the case, then it would have been hidden on Oak Island. If the Templars came to hide it or whatever, it would have been before Poussin would have painted these things, theoretically.
Yes.
And so he would, if he knew that information of what was being hidden, like what had been hidden at that point, then it makes more sense looking at these stuff. Because when we're watching the show, part of what we don't get in my thinking is we don't get okay, so a lot of stuff they found last year that they've been highlighting is all from the 1700s. And when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking, Poussin did his work in the 1600s. How does that even correlate? But then you got to really consider, okay, well, maybe because this keeps going back further and further, like what they did in the swamp. They're like, oh, this could have been like 10 or 1100 AD, so it's hard piecing it all together in our brain. And then, like you said, we only get 5 minutes of you guys, telling us about your stuff. So it's hard to wrap our minds around it. And they got so much stuff going on in this treasure hunt that it's hard to follow some of the lines sometimes. You know what I mean?
I can imagine. I don't believe the Ark of the Covenant is buried on Oak Island. I never said that, but somehow in the editing room they managed to get that out of my mouth, which is okay. I mean, we've been treated like royalty on the island, so you will never hear me say a bad word. I love them to bits, all of them, and they need to make television, so that's cool.
Yeah.
I do believe. I'm not sure who's gonna still take me serious after today, but I do believe that there's a chance Templars made it to North America. As part of my research, I went to the original sources. When the Templars were arrested in 1307, they were interrogated by the Inquisition. There are records from the French interrogations in Poitiers, in France, and there are records from the English interrogations in Scotland. In France, it was recorded that Gerard de Villiers, who was the master of France, the preceptor of France, escaped with some 50 horses and allegedly the treasure towards a place where a fleet would be waiting for him to escape. Now, people say he testified that under pressure. Might not be true. What is known is that nothing was ever heard again of Gerard de Villiers. The financial treasure of the Knights Templar most probably ended up in the coffers of the French king. You can see the balances go up. It's fairly well documented that amounts of money came in after the arrest of the Templars. Now, if you read the testimony, for example, of William of Middleton, who was an English Templar, he says the moment, and you have to imagine in England, Scotland, things happened a little bit later than they did in France, because there was the distance and the news and the orders took a while to travel. William of Middleton says the moment that we heard that our brothers were arrested on the mainland, some of us threw off their habits and we fled, and it says in Latin, ultra mare, over the sea. So where could you flee from Scotland? You could flee back to the continent. You could perhaps go to Outremer, which was the Holy Land. But both the mainland and Jerusalem, after the orders of Philip IV to arrest everybody, wouldn't have been a safe place.
Hostile territory.
And then if you know that the sea route from Scotland to North America had been known since the year 1000. Leif Erikson reached Newfoundland in the year 1000. That is something that is, I think today is no longer historically disputed. So you had a group of Norsemen who lived on the Orkney Islands in the north of Scotland, who sailed from the Orkneys to Iceland, to Greenland, to Newfoundland, and they say all the way down to Delaware. So I don't think it's such an enormous stretch. If your life is in danger and you are, 20, 30 able, strong guys who have money, who have ideas, who have a belief, and who want to either save something, save your own life, save your family, your children, I don't think it's such a big stretch to think that you go on a boat and sail to North America where you will be safe from the church. Mm-hmm. And then, people can say this was never recorded anywhere, it's never documented, so it's impossible. Would you write this down and save it for later? And if you would arrive in North America, your first priority wouldn't be to make paper and record. Hey, I was just on a boat and I sailed, for 6 weeks and I got really sick. But then now I'm in
Let's
North
tweet
America.
everybody.
Yeah, let's
tweet. Exactly. So I met Ian Spooner when I was on the island at lunch with him. I was completely blown away by his findings, and his datings do strongly support a Templar theory, and then the rest. If there was a secret that originated with the Templars or much earlier, that was during the course of the centuries documented by the likes of Poussin, by Francis Bacon, and a group of Rosicrucians. It's very well imaginable that we're all discussing the same secret that's carried through the ages, and which has something to do with Oak Island. Is it what is there? A menorah, the Ark of the Covenant? I have no idea. I'd be very surprised if something would be buried there still. But boy, would I love to see it come out of the ground.
Us too,
for sure.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, well, that's
sorry for the long monologue.
That was great. I loved it.
Yeah, seriously.
So like you kind of explain it, really elegantly there with, the reasoning behind why there could be no records. As curious humans, we want there to be some kind of proof and a paper trail. But when there's no paper and you're fleeing for your life, what you just said makes exactly sense.
Mm-hmm.
You're in witness protection. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. You got to get out of God. Right?
And if you don't want people to know, you wouldn't write it down.
Yeah, you just go and save your life.
Like I said, I say in the past, if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. So if I don't write it down. You don't know where I am.
But
if you want to keep a secret, keep it secret. So
Yeah.
I got that question a lot after the show. So why did Poussin record his secret? I think because someone asked him to. And it had to be someone who had to be able to read all the signs and the symbology. And I don't think he told everything. So you could get sort of close, within 2-3 miles of the spot. And then, you would look around and see a lot of trees.
Frustrated for that.
And he was not the first to create a painting with Etienne Arcadia ego on it, where Sino was the first before him. So this phrase, and I think the idea behind it, had been around for a little while prior to these paintings as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think there's a tradition there, and we think probably this was something that was done in stages over time.
That would make so to me, because I was thinking, are all these pieces, were they commissioned works for someone, or was things that he did himself just because?
They were commissioned.
Okay. So then whoever commissioned,
Mm-hmm.
we work on treasure hunts, and one of them that we do, there's an artist who did the paintings, and then someone that wrote the poems or the verses that go with these. Okay.
Yep.
And within that, you have to pair whatever this piece of writing is. Hopefully you've got the right one with hopefully the right image.
Yeah.
So you would divide this, right?
Yeah,
we
12
wouldn't
and 12.
put all of our secrets into one painting to get you there. And even then, the artist only knew pieces of it. He was given Polaroids of, hey, this, and this need to be included, or whatever, his dossier, if you will, of things that should be in there. Do you think that could be similar to what happened with Poussin being delivered? Here, I need you to include these in this commissioned piece of work, and he himself didn't necessarily know what he was putting together,
or he just didn't know where the X marks the spot would have been. Like maybe he even knew that it would lead to something valuable or some knowledge or whatever. But it's just that since he only had 3/4 of the pieces of puzzle,
or even half,
to get his point across, or what was supposed to be got across, the other half is somewhere else. Yeah,
I think it makes a lot of sense. In the end, you never know. The sentence in Arcadia ego was first used by Guercino, like Chris says, commissioned by Cosimo II de' Medici, the Tuscan Grand Duke. Poussin, but he would have been a good painter to commission something to. He was someone that worked alone, which was very unusual at the time. But also, he was, by the time he made this, already so famous that he could really choose what commission that he took. So he could be picky, and he was free in the subjects, how he painted it. So there's a fair chance he didn't know everything, but if you look at what we showed you, the 1650 self-portrait and the symbology behind that, it does at least suggest that he knew very well what he was doing.
Since you bring up the Medici family, they were known for that. They were patrons of Botticelli, of Da Vinci, of Michelangelo, and it's fairly well documented that they would, like you said, they would suggest the subject matter and have the greatest artist of their era paint them. I've read in a couple of places that they would also have these paintings done during certain astrological alignments. So it's almost like they were creating a magical talisman, a snapshot of a moment in time, and at the same time putting their secrets into the painting and putting a little bit of something mystical in there as well.
That's cool.
Yeah, and you have to. Cosimo's tutor was Galileo. He financed him pretty much all his life. And you also have to imagine this was a small group of people. There were less people in the world altogether, but people with power. There weren't too many of them, and they all knew each other. So Poussin knew the Richelieu and Louis XIII, and the people in the Vatican, and this was a relatively small circle of people.
That's really neat. Yeah, and I appreciate Deidre bringing up the connection with one of the treasure hunts that we do, because it's just like, it's not the same whatsoever, but it's just like a modern example of a possibility of kind of the same kind of thing going on. And so even
it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing, and it's just more modern. So it's pretty neat.
I mean, it just goes to show, as humans, we're curious and still and looking for these codes and these secrets, but this was just done in a very different time. Of course, you're going to be thinking about astrological signs, and you've got more time to ponder the universe versus play on Google Maps or
but the stars were such a focus in in lots of things in life. It was ever present. So
for sure.
Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about as far as Poussin goes, or should we move on to some of the stuff on the shows again? Because I want to ask about the follow-up of your guys' visit, because on the first episode that Corjan was on, we had him make his presentation, and then immediately, it seems, we have Steve Guptill, and we got Tony Sampson, and who else is there? Rick. Yeah, and Rick were all out doing out at the swamp doing a survey, a GPR survey with Don Johnston, Steve Watson. And so I mean, on your end, how did that feel to know that they at least on our end, it looked immediately like they followed up with
like they dropped everything. Let's go scan the swamp.
I didn't know. I saw that on television.
Oh, wow.
I was going to ask if you were there.
No, and I think, to be honest, I think they were very interested, but I think after we did the war room together, so we spent I think 4 days on the island, in which we both did war rooms, and then we did one together, which was like half an hour before I had to leave to catch my plane. So it was that was a very stressy situation, but it went very well. And then we really knew we had sparked their interest. Around the eye of the swamp, and it was fantastic to see on television what they actually did there.
Yeah, it's really neat.
What a thrill to actually get a hit.
It's amazing when something comes together, and when you're doing a scan, like they say it in the money pit sometimes, when something should be there and then you find something, that's got to be a good feeling.
Yeah,
that really was.
Yeah,
very gratifying.
And for the point that we discovered together, I mean, they really followed up. So we got a call, I think, on a Tuesday afternoon. Can you do a war room tonight, because we have something exciting to share? And that's when they told us that right on the spot they had unearthed this huge stone in the swamp, which. It's very, very cool to see. If you now see Steve Guptill's map on the show, it says Arcadia Point. So that's our stone. Yeah. That was pretty exciting, and I think the jury's still out on what that is, and what they're going to find there.
Yeah, you guys got a little claim to fame there with something being named after you. It's like a long line of things being named after people. Like we have Billy's Wall out in Smith's Cove.
Right.
We. There's a lot of
you've made it onto Steve's map. That's a big deal.
Yeah, that is a big deal.
That is a big deal.
Official.
Steve is such a fantastic guy.
What a great guy.
We talked to
so many nice things to say about us. That was good.
Oh man, Steve! I hope if you're watching, I hope you'll forgive me. But I'd been working with him for a day, and then it took me like 2 days to understand that he was actually part of the team. So I thought he was he was a guy helping out. He had this amazing CAD model of the island. So he was tremendous. And then
that's funny.
Later I realized that, oh bloody hell, this is the Steve Guptill from the Oak Island. It's a bit stupid. Steve, if you're looking at I apologize.
We love you, Steve. He was so generous with his time.
Yeah.
He's incredibly busy, and we were just throwing question after question. And could you map this? Could you do this? Could you diagram that? He was just so friendly and calm about it, and nice, and so generous with his time. What a great guy! Everybody was. We really felt like family up there.
And we talked to Steve a couple of weeks ago. We did an interview with him, and he had some very nice things to say about y'all as well. So,
Yes.
Yeah.
He's cool.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
cool. He was somebody that was severely needed on the island.
Oh, so bad. Yes.
Like, I think they probably had surveyors and whatnot, but they really brought him on the team at the end of the prior season, and I think he is, invaluable.
Steve Matheson, that says it. Like,
he's got a big stick.
he has a big stick. I don't know.
TMI.
Yeah. So you guys, we saw a picture of you having lunch or dinner in the at the Mug and Anchor with like Billy and Steve and Gary Drayton.
A little jealous.
The brothers, Rick and Morty. So how did that go? That pretty sweet.
That was a great time. Yeah. It was nice to relax and just be very casual with everyone. For me, the war room was very stressful. Cameras go on and suddenly you're there. But to sit back and have a beer with these guys, what a wonderful experience. And just to tell you how great these guys are. It's a long day. They're all exhausted. And they're finally sitting down to get something to eat. And they're just inundated with fans coming up to take pictures and talk to them. And never a bad word to say, always so gracious. Stand up, take the pictures, talk to them, shake hands, sign anything. Wonderful, wonderful guys.
That's really cool.
Absolutely. That was a fantastic night. I don't think we discussed Oak Island too much. It was just about stuff, Gary, who remembered a number of words in Dutch that I won't repeat on air. We had a beer, we had a laugh, and like Chris says, the number I can't remember how many times Marty had to go on a picture with someone, but their patience is just endless, and it was fantastic to meet Billy and talk to him. A fantastic night.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that their whole team is just special. It's just they all come together, they get the work done. They, they call themselves the Fellowship of the Dig. So and that's what they truly say they are.
And they are.
I believe it.
And during the day on the island, they actually work. There's a big team on the island, and they're actually busy. My wife asks me, then how come if they've been there for like 7 years, how is it possible that they didn't turn every stone on the island and find it? But they're actually incredibly busy with all these projects, and they are indeed exhausted at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then it's good to sit back and have a drink together. And then that's when you see the bond, and that these guys are really close, that they're friends. And it was fantastic to be part of that for a couple of days. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. Well, next season they may begin the big dig at the Money Pit, so that's pretty exciting from a viewer's perspective.
I can't wait.
Yeah. Are you looking forward to that, or are you just more about the swamp?
No, I would love to see that.
Yes, absolutely. I'm of the mind that there's multiple locations there. I don't think they put all their eggs in one basket. So the swamp, Money Pit, a couple of other areas I'd like to see. And
so,
look everywhere. Leave no stone unturned.
There's a lot going on there, and they're really smart about where they're digging, doing the research to make the best use of their time, right? You would think after so many years maybe we'd turn up a gold shiny thing, but digging for buried treasure is really hard.
Yeah, we try to,
especially when it moves. Now we have this sluice way, and things are liquid, and there's the island is changing. Like it's just
And the people who put it there didn't want you to find it in the first place.
Exactly.
And it's hard. It's horrible. There's mosquitoes. There's nasty plants.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yes.
that's kind of like alive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So something we ask all of our guests is about, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Amazing Race TV show. How do you feel you would do on the Amazing Race together?
I've never seen it. I have no idea. I'd probably be very bad.
You need to see it.
Yeah, it's a fun show. It's a show where
Put it on my list.
it's like a game show where people do a race around the world, and at different intervals, people will be eliminated until there's 1 or 3 teams left that race to the finish line, and they literally race around the world. And I think you guys might be fun on the show.
Okay, we'll give it a try. Yeah. I'm up for it, but I'm not too.
You got to be smart.
I'm more slow and steady, though. I don't know how quick I'd be. Corjan's very fast, though.
Okay.
Well, I'm more of going fast and forget half of it.
Yeah,
you're the perfect team.
Yeah, so you're two coin, and then you could give a piggyback to Chris across the finish line.
Yeah. It'll be fine.
So,
anytime.
All right. So just one final thing, right? So Rick and Marty, you've already talked about them a lot. I just wanted to say again that you guys made a real impression on Rick and Marty, because you guys had come back. You know, you weren't just in the one episode, and then we later saw Chris in the Shakespeare special, right? Mm-hmm. And so you guys made a good impression. They typically don't have people keep coming back. I just want to say like wow, because especially Marty. Marty doesn't want anything to do with the swamp. He's a skeptic anyway. You guys seem to have got under his skin to where you
in a good way, not a weird, creepy way.
Sorry.
Like,
in a good way. You
got under his skin.
No. You guys got his attention.
Yes.
How about that? You guys got his attention, and that's pretty big when it concerns the swamp. Mm-hmm. And then you guys found there's some stuff to be found in the swamp. So
hopefully we'll see you next year.
Well, thank you. Well,
yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
it was really a thrill. And,
well, we hope to see more of you guys on the show. I mean, it would be unprecedented to have somebody asked back again. But I mean, who knows, right? So fingers crossed on our end.
But if they do, just be like, there's some really awesome podcasters you should know.
Absolutely.
They would love to come out there with you and just, help a whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing
Maybe
it out.
Maybe be
there.
like the water person. You'll bring like water bottles to the guys.
Done.
Like, here, catch.
Gatorade, whatever it takes. I mean,
that's it. We are not doing this without you guys. Don't worry.
No.
And get that in writing.
Did we miss anything? You guys have anything else you'd like to say? One other thing, I guess, misconceptions. What is there like a biggest misconception that you guys would want to touch upon about your theory?
All about our theory. We've already discussed it. I think that we never said the Ark was buried in the swamp. Yeah, that would be nice.
It would be cool.
Yeah, it would be.
Maybe it is, but no, I don't think we've. That wasn't part of our theory at all. We mentioned the Ark, we mentioned the swamp, but we didn't put them together.
Well, right on.
No, I just feel, privileged, to be here talking to you, to have been on this show, and I never realized, what an impact it has when your ugly mug is on television. It's mind blowing.
You guys you're good looking guys.
You're good.
You're talking.
So hey, we are gonna
wrap. My avatar's up, not me. Right?
Exactly. Yeah,
not the real me.
So we will wrap it up now. We just want to say thank you so much for being on our podcast. And Corjan is a musician. And so we are going to, for our podcast version, we're going to do an outro with one of his songs. So
exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, for well, I think I mentioned it to you, but yeah, I mean, we just want to thank you for being a part of this whole crazy thing and for giving us a bunch of your time. So really
exactly. Hopefully, we'll be able to have you back again
in the future.
Yes.
You're so
Really
welcome.
enjoyed
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Guys.
All right, thank you so much for your time.
Have a good evening
Okay, thank you.
And day.
and day, or whatever time it is.
Take care.
Follow me into the storm and take in the view and the sight. Feel how your senses are on, intensified. Follow the wind and the roar and brace for the pull of the tide. Feeling the waves and the falls. Follow me up to the hill, climb all the way up to the sky. Feel the emotions boil up.